the recording. All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Astro Read. We're so excited to have you guys again join us on this episode of the Astro Read. So for this episode, we're actually answering our first viewer question. So if you're listening or watching and you have a question that you want answered about your life, whether it's about relationships, your personality, things coming up in your life potentially, your abilities, like career, etc. Whatever question you have, submit it, and just give your birth details, birth date for sure. If you have your time of birth and location of birth, that is also very helpful. So that we could analyze your chart as best as possible and provide as much insight to answer your question. So you'll see in the description the different ways you can submit your question. You can submit to the astroread@gmail.com. We also have a form that you can fill out if you prefer that way of submitting your question and your birth details in one shot. So all the details will be in the description. But with today's viewer question, we have an individual. I'm going to keep her identity anonymous just because I haven't touched base with the individual. It's a she. That's all I will say. It's a she. I haven't been able to ask her if she wants her identity revealed, so I will keep it anonymous to be on the safe side. But she's actually one of the Astronatic followers on Instagram. And her question, has to do with love. It has to do with love and relationships. So she is in love with this person. And she is curious to know if she will end up with this individual and if she'll end up being in an arranged marriage or if she'll end up being in a love marriage. So, there's certain cultures where they kind of differentiate between the two. So she's definitely from one of those cultures. And so in a nutshell, her question is all about, love, like, what if she's going to end up with this individual. The interesting thing is that we don't have the birth details of this person's love interest, so we wouldn't be able to compare the two charts or do synastry or anything like that. So the approach that we're going to take to answer this viewer question, which will hopefully help this person, is to give insight into the relationship tendencies of this individual that could hopefully provide her some insight to see if this potential love interest could be a good fit for her. And just in general, like, what is her approach to love and relationships and what is a good fit for her? So,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Hello. How are you? So excited to be here. And I am very excited because I also like to share maybe some information on timing, because, timing is also very important when it comes to initiating marriages, initiating love relationships, and maybe even when she's going to meet someone or if this person is even right for her to begin with. There might be some sort of Neptune transit that's blocking her ability to see clearly and things like that. So we're going to get into that today, and I'm really excited. Can you tell us what the question is exactly?
The question, I think the question from the viewer when she submitted was, I'm in love with this person. Will I end up with this person? Am I going to have a love marriage or an arranged marriage? So, I mean, can I say whether she's going to have a love or arranged marriage? It's hard to tell. I don't think astrology can really predict that for a person specifically. And unfortunately, she wasn't able to send the birth details of her love interest. So I really can't compare what their signs are, how their planets align, all that kind of jazz. So I figured like our best approach is to really focus on this individual because we do have her birth details, which we've analyzed. And just giving our insights as to how she approaches love and relationships. And even if either one of us have any insights as to potential transits that might be affecting houses that relate to love and relationships. So yeah, what do you think, Clari? Is that like a good way for us to approach this specific viewer question?
Oh, yeah. And for our viewers listening, if we can just go through her chart a little bit, give them some insights, and then throw up the chart if we can without her name on it.
Yeah, for sure.
On the screen so they can see that as well and follow along with us.
Yeah, let me do that. I mean, I think her birth details kind of show up in the chart, so that's gonna be tough to show, but I'll show like a portion of it that doesn't show the birth details just to protect her identity.
Take a screenshot of the actual chart and then just cut out the birth details on the photo and then just show us the photo. That
Yeah,
will
I
probably
guess
be
so.
better.
Yeah, that'll probably
Mhm,
be best. So let me
mhm.
do that real quick. But I guess while I do that, Clary, do you have any insight as to what are the things that you look for whenever clients or people you know ask about relationship tendencies and what's destined for
So
them in
the
love?
number one thing that I always look for.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it cuts off. It cuts off. So I thought you had finished.
Oh
So
no.
sorry about that. So anyway, the things that I look for when it comes to relationships and whether or not people are meant to be together, etc. Of course, we do synastry chart, which is just comparing one chart to the other. But specifically for one person or an individual asking like what's going on with my love life, I'm gonna look at for females where their Mars placement is. If they're attracted to males, and I'm not sure how to do it any other way for same-sex couples, so I apologize. I don't mean to be exclusionary. This is just what I've been trained in, and hopefully everything will expand so I can learn more. And then for males attracted to females, I look for where their placement of their Venus is. And then, of course, in general, Mars and Venus placement for either male or female is also really important. Their motivations with Mars in terms of what their love motivations could be, and then what their sort of idea of love is like. Where Venus is placed is really important to learn about what they think about love, what their tendencies in love might be. And then, of course, their sun sign and their Mercury. Sun to really figure out sort of what their personality is when people meet them. Not necessarily like the rising sign, but definitely like who they are as a person on this planet and in their expression. And then Mercury is how they communicate. Because if you have a Mercury that may be more challenging, you might be off-putting to a person that you're attracted to. So maybe understanding how you communicate, and then finding people like, for example, someone who has Mercury in Gemini might be less not so much think about what they're saying. They'll be more maybe great at speaking, but not necessarily at holding back. That's what I'm trying to say. And that might be something that they might need to learn, or to find a partner who is a person who can take a little bit more criticism, to have something more straightforward sent to them. And then in terms of their north and south node, there's very different things that you can do with that, but they might not necessarily love might not be like the most important thing to them. They might be in love with someone and asking you about that sort of thing, but love might not be like at the top of the list of things that they need to accomplish in this lifetime. And maybe through love they could find some sort of healing if the north node is in the seventh house, but maybe their main focus is to improve themselves as a person if north node is in the first. You know what I mean? So those types of different things that maybe we can go into what the north node means in each house in the future. But for right now, in terms of what you need to do to look at your chart for your love, if you're a woman, look at where your Mars placement is. If you're a man, look at where your Venus placement is. And of course, I always, for synastry purposes, for matching two people, for seeing if two people are meant to be, I have the standard of just looking at their sun, moon, and rising, and seeing if they either are opposing forces, so they have something to learn from each other, or if they are sort of auspicious, if they're beneficial to each other. So if I see like somebody who has Taurus sun and someone who has and the opposite sign has a Taurus moon, their moon and their sun match. Or if they have the same Venus, they express themselves in their love life the same way. And also the Venus and Mars polarity, sort of how do you express yourself and how do you want to receive love. Venus is how you receive love. Mars is how you give love. So what is your communication style when it comes to love? Are you a person who has Mars in the first house in Aries, who is very passionate and is very forward looking and is, sort of hot at the beginning, cold as you go on, or are you the type of person who has Venus in Libra, and you need everything to be very much in balance and very calm, and you can't really have too much rocking the boat so that you can feel loved, you know what I mean? And that's sort of the conversation that I have with my client, like, how do you give and receive love, Mars and Venus? And then, of course, who are you as a person in love? Is it important? Is it not important? Is it something that is beneficial to you to be in a love match, etc.?
Yeah.
So as per the chart that we're reading, do you have everything ready so we can start looking?
I do. And I think the thing to take away from this as well is, different astrologers will do synastry readings in different ways. And what synastry means, for those that aren't as familiar, is basically an astrologer will take your natal chart, will take your love interests or partner's natal chart, and kind of compare where the planets align between your chart and your partner's chart or your love interest chart to see how they align. Like, are they in good aspect with each other, challenging aspect? And those were some of the things Clari just explained. And astrologers will do it differently and compare different things. So yeah, today we're kind of really focusing on one person and her love tendencies. I have the chart ready, so I'm going to share it. I try my best. I took out the personal information to protect this person's identity. And this just goes to show for our viewers, if you submit your information and you want a question answered, we're not going to, and you don't want your identity revealed, we're not going to reveal your identity. We're not going to reveal your birthday, your time of birth, location of birth. We're going to keep it really anonymous to protect your identity, but all we'll see is how your chart shapes up. So let me share this screen. Let's see. Do you see the chart now?
Yes, I see it now.
Okay, perfect. So here's the chart for this individual. So this is the person's chart. A lot of the person's planets are in the left side of the chart. So she probably is very, this person I can imagine is very independent. That's just like a quick look that I see from the chart. But yeah, I mean, I guess the way we could approach this is I can give my insights, and then Clari, you can give your insights after, if there's anything different or anything additional that you feel like will also be useful to highlight. Yeah, so let's do this. So one thing, I think when I looked at this individual's chart, I got I would say I got like three main components, like three main points that really stood out to me. So the first is that this person loves love. Like, love is probably very much in the forefront of things that she thinks about, that she wants, but she also probably could be fickle. And the reason why I think this is because her Aries is on her 5th house. So if you're looking at the natal chart, like I always compare a natal chart to like a pizza pie. I guess it's the Jersey girl in me. But like, if you look at the 5th slice, which is the 5th house, Aries is on the start of it. And so that means that this person is very impulsive when it comes to love and romance and things like that. But it could also mean that she, can be really impulsive, really like somebody, and then is on to the next. That could be a potential way it manifests. Also, she has Venus, which is the planet that represents love. She has some challenging aspects. So her Venus is square Uranus, and Uranus is the planet that's all about unpredictability, also unconventionality. And Venus is also square Mars, and Mars is the planet of impulse and action. So that could mean that like her romantic inclinations, her romantic feelings, all of that could really come at odds with her impulsiveness and with unpredictable events. So there could be a lot of unpredictability and fickleness potentially that can play out in her love situations based on these aspects. Another thing I noticed from her chart is that she could have a deep fear of rejection. which is kind of challenging to have when you think of love. Because I think one thing you'll learn when you're in the dating scene, which I definitely have encountered, is rejection is a part of it. Not everybody's going to have romantic feelings towards you. Not everything works out in the long term. So when you have a deep fear of rejection, it could definitely add challenges to pursuing love. And this person might have a hard time relating to others, which also can provide challenges in a relationship, because relationship in many cases is about compromise and trying to understand the other person, or at least try to accept them for who they are and things like that. And in compromise does come into play a lot when it comes to those situations. So this person has Saturn in her fifth house. The fifth house represents love. Saturn is a very tough planet. It's all about structure, tough lessons. So that might make it, that could provide challenges in her love situations. She also has Venus opposite Saturn. That could be a really challenging aspect when it comes to love. It can make it hard for her to relate to others. It might make her, fear of rejection quite a bit. So it's definitely a challenging, aspect to deal with. And then Venus square Mars, which I mentioned before, can make her impulsive in love, but it could also have like a deep fear of rejection, or it might make it hard for her to accept rejection, or accept a situation where maybe she is showing interest in somebody and that person is not able or does not want to reciprocate. And then on top of that, her Venus is in Scorpio in the 11th house. So with Venus being in Scorpio, she probably loves in a way that's very deep, very emotional. Scorpio can, Scorpio is a very deep sign, very hidden kind of sign. Scorpio is a water sign. So Scorpios can be very emotional, but it's like all buried underneath. And also Scorpios tend to be kind of suspicious and not really know if they can trust somebody. So those qualities probably play out in how this individual loves and how this person approaches romantic situations. So Venus being in Scorpio, it's not the easiest placement, in my opinion, for Venus. But again, we take the positive approach with astrology. So it's all about, hey, this is what you have in your natal chart, and how can you work with it to your advantage? So when it comes with Venus being in Scorpio, this person, the pros is this person is going to be able to really connect with somebody in a deep way and in a romantic connection. But the challenges this person will have to face is fear of betrayal and fear and jealousy that may come into play a lot. The last kind of component that comes to mind for me with this individual is relationship is very important to this individual. One of the things that I look at when I'm thinking of somebody and their relationship tendencies and what they're interested in romantically and what would be a good fit for them for a relationship, one of the things I look at is Juno. So Juno is the asteroid in a chart that represents what would be a good fit for somebody for a long-term relationship. So Venus is very important to look at. Anybody that's wanting to know more about their relationship tendencies and desires based on their natal chart should look at their Venus. But I would also encourage people to look at their Juno. And unfortunately, this chart doesn't show Juno. But this individual has Juno in Capricorn and in her first house. So her Juno is somewhere in that first pizza slice of her chart, and it's in Capricorn. So that to me says that this person, when it comes to a long-term relationship, might even look for a more traditional arrangement, needs stability, needs long-term commitment. She probably wouldn't be a good fit with somebody that's flighty or kind of fickle or kind of freedom loving per se. Like she would be a good fit with somebody that's traditional. And then with Juno being in the first house, having a long-term commitment and having a relationship is very important to her. Like she probably defines a lot of her identity with if she's in a partnership. So yeah, another example of how relationship is very important to this person. But then Yeah, so I mean, with Venus being in Scorpio, I think it complements that. I think one of the reasons it's important to look at your Venus and your Juno when it comes to learning more about your tendencies and relationships is because one thing I see with people's charts is that sometimes they'll have their Venus in a sign that doesn't really complement where their Juno is. So, for example, somebody could have their Venus in, say, Sagittarius. So that could mean they're really romantically drawn to people that are like freedom loving, that love to travel, that might be nomadic. But then if they have their Juno in, say, Cancer, regardless of whether they're attracted to somebody that's like nomadic and freedom loving, at the end of the day, the fit for them for a long-term relationship is somebody that's actually very homebound and very traditional and very kind of stays in their hometown or is very, stays in their comfort zone. So that could be a challenge when you have a Juno and Venus that are in conflict with each other. But in this person's case, the Juno and Venus complement each other pretty well, I think. It's not that, they're not that different. I mean, I think this person, to have a good romantic connection, needs it to be intense. She's probably an intense lover, a deep romantic, whether that's apparent or not. And at the same time, somebody that's good for her for a long-term relationship is somebody that can commit and is traditional in that way. So I think that can complement each other pretty well. So I would say if I were to summarize my points, it would be this person loves love, but a challenge could be that she could be fickle in how she approaches romantic connections. This person could have a hard time relating to others and could have a fear of rejection. And then as far as what's a good fit relationship wise for this person, it's somebody that can provide a stable relationship and is committed. And also with Gemini being on the cusp of this person's 7th house. So Gemini, the sign of Gemini is on the start of this person's 7th pizza slice. Intellectual connection and being able to talk with somebody about anything and have a good banter, that's huge for this person. That is so needed. I also have Gemini on my 7th house, so I can relate on a personal level as to how important that could be in a relationship dynamic. So those would be my insights. What are your thoughts, Clary?
So this is such an interesting chart, and I would disagree onto a certain level.
Yeah.
So I'm probably going to disagree onto a certain level, but I'm seeing Mercury, which rules the 7th house, right in Sagittarius. So the communication to me is someone who not off-putting, but definitely more like cuts to the point, very sharp, very, wants to explore the deeper conversations because that is a Sagittarius thing. But maybe the way that they're being interpreted with that rising sign is also someone, like you said, is fickle. But in romance, a Sagittarius rising has a very difficult time not convincing, but showing people they care. And that's something that the love interest of any Sagittarius rising has to be someone who is strong of will to be able to be determined to get them if they're very interested, or someone who can overlook this trait and say, no, they really do mean it. They do love me. They do want me on a deeper level. And I've seen a lot of my clients that have the Sagittarius rising struggle with that. Am I really going to be in a serious relationship or not? Is this really serious? Maybe this person is seeing something that is not serious in them, or even in the conversations that they're having. It's very dreamy. It's very higher level conversation that maybe that person is not interested in having, etc. And then, of course, like you said, Venus is in the 11th house in Scorpio. So this person, it might be that they need to receive love in a way that's much deeper than they are expressing, and that this person might be not as seen as seriously about this relationship than is necessary. So it's important that they express in the most simple terms, because it could get complicated with that Sagittarius, that they are in love and that they want to be loved. Maybe not profess it, but definitely be more serious. Be there for that person. Show up when you're asked to show up. In terms of whether or not you're going to be maybe in a marriage that's arranged, I would say that moon in the 4th house, in Pisces, there might be a little bit of haziness. Pisces is more of a sign of, yeah, right there.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, you see my cursor. So I guess in this case, yeah, moon is in Pisces. That's really interesting. So water-based moon, but it looks like it's on the 3rd, unless it shows up on the 4th in another house system.
Oh no, yeah. It's showing up on the whole side house system is showing up in the 4th.
Oh yeah, and just to clarify for anybody that's wondering what house system we're using for this chart, we're using Placidus. So there's different house systems, but we're using Placidus for this one just for purposes of time to just show one version of this individual's chart. Exactly.
Yeah. And I don't want to confuse anyone. It is in the 3rd house in the Placidus. It's in the 4th house in whole sign. So it's showing something of a more home life that's more dreamy, that's more illusionatory, someone who's experiencing their family in a more, maybe the family doesn't need to arrange it and you are interpreting that they will, or opposite, maybe you are wanting to be out of the arranged marriage system and they want that. But in some sort of sense, the 4th house representing the home life, the family, there's something blocking a full interpretation of the relationship that's not allowing you to feel like that freedom that you need, or you are interpreting in the opposite sense where you are feeling like a lot of pressure to be in marriage that maybe they don't care either way. So maybe having that conversation with your family, not expressing that you're in love with someone, but expressing, because maybe that they're not interested in having that conversation with you, but maybe having the conversation about whether or not you're going to be in a love marriage. If it's something that's important to your family, I'm seeing as a Sagittarius rising and sun in Sagittarius that like you guys are a little more rebellious. So I'm going to say that maybe it's okay. They'll understand if you want to be in a love relationship. As per the person that you're attracted to, make sure that you're clear about what their intentions are always. I'm looking at the 2nd house, and Neptune is in the 2nd house of your personal finances, opposite your North Node in the 8th house, right? Am I correct?
Yeah, North Node in the 8th house. Yeah.
So that means your South Node is also there. So you're sort of leaving this idea of your self-worth versus the way that you are embracing partnership. And sort of what it means to get into a marriage contract with another person. Is it going to be your own needs, or is it going to be the needs of the family, the needs of the society that are going to be important? And then, of course, your Jupiter in the 5th house in Mars is going to really expand, right? Where is that? Yep, the 5th house in Mars.
5th house. Let's see, Mars. I see Mars in the 2nd. The 5th. Jupiter. Oh, Jupiter is in the 5th. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's good. You know, having Jupiter in the 5th, I'm assuming that'd be really good.
Yeah, I was gonna say it expands your ability to attract romantic partnership. Yeah. It's gonna expand and it's gonna motivate you in that way as well, because it's a fire sign. So it's something that's really exciting for you to be in that sort of relationship. But like I always say about Jupiter, it expands and it can also be too much where you are too passionate about someone and it may give you sort of an idea that is not realistic to what you can attain, or to a person who's not right for you. So you want to be sort of understanding that look at this person in a deeper way, because you might get carried away by the waters of your own emotions and excitement about this person. Venus is in a water sign as well. So you might get carried away by those emotions of what you're needing as an individual, as opposed to what is really needed for your life and for your standing in the world. I also have the North Node in the whole signs in the ninth house. So for my interpretation from that, your future sort of life trajectory is asking you about exploring the world as opposed to exploring yourself. Exploring yourself as an individual. What does that mean? That means that if you're attracted to someone, that means that they're expanding your worldview. Again, you're Sagittarius rising, so that's not a surprise. But make sure that that person is actually expanding your worldview and it's not a distraction from what you're trying to attract in your life. Because I always say, like, Sagittarius has a wonderful, wonderful sign. They're so much fun. They're so exciting, but they themselves get carried away with what they're doing. They're ruled by Jupiter, right? So they themselves get carried away with what they're doing. And the ruler of your house is right there in Aries, making you a little bit more passionate about what your hobbies, tendencies, romantic life is going to be. So, take advantage of this time right now, because I'm looking at the transits right now. When would be a good time for you? Well, Neptune is still there. Jupiter is going into Pisces in your fourth house. That might mean that you might get an opportunity to have a conversation with your family about what your relationships are going to be. And it might expand your ability to expand your family as well. So maybe children or marriage is on the horizon, because obviously, you want to have marriage, children, etc. And then, of course, you got a lot of things going on in your chart itself. But I would always caution a Sagittarius rising to look really deeply at the person that they're attracted to and to have the real conversations you need to have in romantic life that they know that you're attracted to them. So I always go back to that for Sagittarius rising. Does this person really know you love them? Because a lot of people with Sagittarius rising have that problem. Is this person, the person that you're attracted to, I'm saying, is asking you, are you really in love? So, yeah.
Yeah, that's really good insight. And I guess helpful for me too. I find a lot of similarities between myself and this person's chart. Like, I am also Sag rising. I also have Gemini on the cusp of my seventh house. So yeah, a lot of the advice you're giving, I could even take, especially the Sag rising advice, because I can see how the things you're saying, with love interest, not knowing how much you care and all that coming into play with myself. So yeah, I could definitely relate to that. So yeah, that's all really good insight. So I think when it comes to this person, it seems like there's just potential conversations that she could have that could help in determining what kind of path will be the one that she takes, whether it's a love marriage, an arranged marriage. And I think, self-awareness is so important when it comes to trying to find that love in your life, kind of knowing what is a good fit for you, and what is the best fit for a relationship. Who are you? Like, what kind of relationship dynamics do you bring into this relationship? So I think with this person, she's not going to have trouble finding a love interest. It's just making sure she makes the right choice or whatever's right for her. And also making the relationship stick, right? Because there might be ways that she communicates or just how she comes across that could potentially create challenges in her kind of getting her love interest, if it is the right fit for her to realize that this could be a connection and that she cares.
Like I said, with that Jupiter in the fifth, it's running hot. Aries is like a hot sign, but it's not a lasting sign. So what you want to do is, yes, you are attracted to this person. Are you really attracted to this person? Is this person going to fulfill your Sagittarius rising needs? Is this person going to fulfill your need to work with your family? Maybe there's a possibility that both could happen, that this could be arranged with this person. And if your family is against it, being that your moon is right there, I mean, it's in the third house in this system, but in the whole sign, it's in the fourth. Maybe it's important that your family approves, because I mean, you are asking that question. Your family's approval might be more important to you than you realize. So,
yeah, for sure. Yeah. So, I mean, I feel like we got some pretty good insight into this
Oh yeah.
individual. I'm hoping it helps this person. So I'll
I
let
hope
her
so
know
too.
once this episode airs. But I guess before we wrap up, are there any last words that you have, Clary? Anything else you want to share? Or are we good to go for this
Um,
episode?
I mean, I'm good to go. I just want to say, like, again, like you receive love through Aquarius tendencies.
Mm-hmm.
So that's your Mars in Aquarius, and you
Mm-hmm.
give love through your Venus tendencies.
Mm-hmm.
So that's your Venus in Scorpio.
Mm-hmm.
So that Venus in Scorpio is they're communicating with each other on a square, I believe, right? So
Yeah.
we're having a real conversation about the depth that you need in love, as well as the freedom that you need in love with the Aquarius there, and what
Mm-hmm.
justice you're going to obtain through love, which
Mm-hmm.
is your need to be right by your family, whether that's arranged or not.
Mm-hmm.
So have that in mind with the conversations you're going to have, and ultimately always know that you have the free will to choose your life.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's a revolution going on that's been going on about marriage, about love, about
Mm-hmm.
female and male rights, not only in India, but all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
And that conversation goes deeper than, am I in love with you, but am I free to love you?
Mm-hmm.
And that freedom is inalienable to every single person. So
Mm-hmm.
hopefully this person can find a balance between those two
Mm-hmm.
things. And not become, a statistic that either ends up in the wrong relationship because she ran too hot with her Jupiter in Aries, or be a statistic where she followed the tradition of her moon in the fourth house on the whole sign chart, and was unable to really fulfill her life and her true desires in life. Be the person that you want to be, and you're going to shine no matter what. Your North Node is in Leo, and it's
Mm-hmm.
asking you, maybe you're going to be the example for your family that
Mm-hmm.
this love marriage lasts and this love marriage works. And it's very important if you are of, certain religions in India, that you do a match of
Mm-hmm.
synastry with this person, so that you know whether or not this is going to be good. I really do believe in those, though. I think that sort of synastry is so important to have. I
Mm-hmm.
did it for me and my husband for our
Mm-hmm.
wedding, as well as our relationship after I met him, of course, not before. And I timed everything for our relationship. Once Saturn was in my fifth house, I was like, yeah, it's time for me to get ready, learn the lessons that I need to learn about love, so
Yeah.
that the person that's coming is ready. So, a lot of transits are very auspicious for the arrival of your marriage. Right now, it's transiting, what is it? Jupiter is transiting
Pisces. It's in Pisces right
Pisces.
now. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and it's going to go back to Aquarius, but
Yeah.
eventually, in about a year and a half, it's going to go to Aries, and that's
Mm-hmm.
your fifth house. So that's something that you can look forward to building up towards that return, your Jupiter return at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So something fun for you to look forward to, and
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot of other aspects, signs later on this year. Venus will be again in Scorpio, like it
Mm-hmm.
transits every year. That's another time for you to look at your love life and have those conversations. And whatever you feel is right ultimately is very important.
Mm-hmm.
So have those conversations so that you can embrace the changes that you want for your life.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm hoping this is insightful for the
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
viewer. And if anybody watching or listening, wants to submit their life question, feel free to look at the details in the description of this episode to see the different ways you can submit your question. You can email us at the astroread@gmail.com with your birth details and question. We'll also have a link below, if possible, to our form that you can fill out that just makes it easier to put everything in, and we can look at that. And then, if you submit your question, could possibly be featured in an upcoming episode of the Astro Read. So I'm going to stop the share of the chart, of the viewer's chart. before we wrap up. So yeah, I mean, I think this nice episode. It's always great when we get viewer questions, a way for us to learn, for us to talk about topics that affect different individuals, but also a way to just help one of our viewers potentially get insight that can really provide clarity and just extra information to keep in mind as this person navigates their life. So it's always great when we can give back to our viewers.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And if there's any questions that you have that you want to send to us individually, you can email the Astro Read, as well as visit us on Instagram. I'm at Bella Star Astrology, and I'm always willing to help and answer your questions. And of course, I have services if you'd like your natal chart read, if you want me to read your transits, your upcoming transits, as well as have, conversations about specific questions that you have. Those are always my favorite, like the thing that we did today, where there was a specific question about the marriage, and the answer is always, it's your life.
Yeah. Free will.
You have the free will to decide, but this is your chart and this is what you have to work with. Yeah. So are you going to have the tough conversations you need to have so that you can have the life you want? Or are you going to go along with what your family, what your life is leading you towards? That's up to you. So hopefully our insights have helped you make a better decision, to the viewer who wrote in. And most importantly, I'm excited to answer more questions, to do the upcoming interviews that we're going to have. And most importantly, maybe in the fall, we're going to have a little upcoming fall energy reading, so we can let you know what transits are happening and how you can navigate the stars.
Oh, I'm excited for that. I'm going to need that. And if you want to follow Astronatic, we're on Instagram at astronatic_. We offer different services as well. Astro counseling, if you want an astro report done. So yeah, definitely make sure to follow us on social media. Those details will be in the description as well. Stay tuned to the Astro Read, because we have more to come. And I'm really excited for the fall energy reading, because even though we're still in summer and I'm in summer mode, before you know it, we'll be gearing up for fall. And I think it'll be an interesting fall with a lot of people kind of, re-emerging or getting back to whatever the new normal is going to be from the pandemic phasing out in a lot of places. And so I think people are definitely going to be going through a transition in the fall of this in between of going back to how things were before, but like having changed and not really being able to go back to how things were, and how do you navigate that? So it'll be interesting to see what comes up for the fall energy reading. And then we'll have other topics that we're going to go over in the meantime as well. So definitely stay tuned. So in the meantime, take care, and see you later, or hear you later. Bye.
Bye. See you soon.